What's up YouTube? Today I want to show you a really cool technique for creating psychedelic glassy tones with Zebralette 3, which is actually a free plugin which is currently in beta. And then we're going to take it a little bit further with processing from a plugin which isn't free, but I mean, you can find other stuff to do this with. But yeah, the kind of basis of the sound is in Zebralette 3. Anyway, without blabbering too much, let's dive in and have a look. So the core of the sound relies on a thing in Zebralette 3 called the spectral distortion. So we want to set this renderer over to additive mode. And if we check out these modifiers over here, we have various different settings. So chaos patterns and wild randomness tend to give us the most kind of glassy sounds. Wild randomness, I believe, every time the note is triggered, it randomizes. Whereas with chaos patterns, you can choose when to randomize it using the seed. And I think if you set the same seed each time, it recalls the same settings. So for example, if you dial it in, save the patch, it will recall it with those same random harmonics, if that makes sense. So like for example, the core sound here is a saw wave. And if we turn up the spectral distortion, you'll notice that the upper partials are all kind of jumbled and randomized based on this random seed. Like I said, wild randomness, basically each time the note is triggered, it generates us a new random. So it's a combination of this system and a thing in here called twinkles, which I'm not quite sure what this does, but I think it's something to do with like filtering the spectrum based on a trigger input, and that creates these kind of like ARP-like plucks. Check this out. So if we set this to gate, it's going to take the input from the MIDI and just add like a little pluck sound. But we can sequence this using, for example, like the LFO. So it's a bit chaotic, but bear with me. We're going to get somewhere. So if we set this back to chaos patterns, and then let's say, for example, get the LFO to modulate this random seed. In fact, what I'm going to do is just turn the twinkle off for now. So in fact here, what we want to do is we want to make use of this, of the sample hold modulator on this mod matrix. So what this allows you to do is basically trigger something based on something else. So here, if we set it to the LFO1 and we get something like LFO2, it's going to trigger every time LFO2 goes above a certain value, for example. So if we set this to random hold, okay, we obviously want to slow this down a little bit. So let's say, for example, go with like a 1/4 on these. And we can also modulate this volume over here with this LFO1 just to give it more of a sweep. In fact, what we can do is we can actually use an MSEG. So let's set this to quarters, would be the same speed as 1/4, obviously. And then we can loop a certain amount of this and get this to modulate the volume instead. We actually want to set this to 16th because the quarter represents that one block. Okay, so to get it to sound a little bit less chaotic, what we want to do is we want to reduce the amount of harmonics that are going into the additive engine. And by doing that, the easiest way is to just kind of change the wave shape into something that looks a bit more like a sine wave. So for example, triangle will get slightly less harmonics, and then a sine wave will be just the fundamental. We don't want to go all the way to a sine wave because then we lose all of that top-end spectral information. But even just like a triangle, or almost there, we start to get these very kind of psychedelic glassy tones. If we set up something like the mod wheel to modulate the loop rate and the rate of all of these, if we get it to modulate all of these the same, so like, for example, loop rate 50%, LFO rate 50%, and LFO rate 2, 50%, then we can use the mod wheel to kind of speed up and slow down that sequence. So the trick now is to use kind of reverbs or any other process to kind of smear those plucky sounds. So the plugin that I was talking about that we're going to take it a little bit further with is a plugin called Magic Blur by GSDSP. So this is actually similar to another plugin that I've featured on my channel before called Magic Delay, but I believe that it's not like a feedback delay, it's just kind of a single cycle delay. And so it kind of allows you to blur certain spectrums, and I guess you could describe it kind of similarly to something like disperser. And so what I'll do is actually just pull up a saw wave and put this on just so I can kind of show you why I think it's kind of like disperser, because disperser delays frequencies differently along the spectrum. So with Magic Blur, for example, if we set this to like something like this, kind of sounds a little bit disperserish. Obviously, it's a lot more pronounced. And you can take things a step further, because here, for example, we can draw in a different shape for each of these colors. Say, for example, let's just do something like, and we can even do like curves like this, something like this, and then we can use this to modulate between these shapes. Okay, so anyway, the same theory, like applied to that kind of glassy sound, you know, where we modulating these kind of shapes like this. Very, very nice effect. So here we have built-in modulators. A really cool thing here is this 2D random. It has 2 outputs. So this is perfect for modulating this XY over here, because it allows us to just quickly, we don't have to set up 2 randoms. It's just one with 2 outputs. This envelope control is really cool because it kind of allows you to change it from kind of more reversey, glassy tones into kind of more percussive, crystally kind of tones. But again, we can, create some kind of modulator for this. So I'm just going to go with the one-dimensional random for this because we just want to modulate this control. And then let's just go with something like Valhalla Supermassive. Chef's Kiss. That's about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, if you haven't yet, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. I will see you guys next time. Cheers.